All right, I think we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first virtual research slam at the MIT AI conference. This is not the first virtual research slam. This is something that the MIT Alumni Association has put on a few times before, but this is the first time we're hosting it as part of the AI conference. We've got a very incredible lineup of researchers from UC Berkeley, UCSF, MIT Media Lab, and MIT CSAIL, and also a very esteemed panel of judges. So very excited for our audience to tune in today and hear from these amazing, brilliant researchers to tell us a little bit about the great work that they're doing and the groundbreaking research they're doing. So with that, I'll hand it off to our MC for the event today, Wendy. Please take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Great to see all of you on a Saturday noon/afternoon or morning, wherever you are from. I'm so excited to be an MC for the MIT Research Slam again, this time virtually. We have a great panel of researchers coming on soon. And by the way, I just want to say I'm wearing my favorite MIT shirt from the MIT Fund in support. And I'm wearing MIT socks, but I'm really not that flexible these days. But I'm ready to get my socks rocked by all of these amazing researchers. So our prizes for today for all the researchers, first place would be a $1,000 gift to MIT COVID-19 research made in the competitor's name. Second prize would be a $500 gift to MIT COVID-19 research made in the competitor's name. And the third prize today would be a $250 gift to MIT COVID-19 research made in the competitor's name. And we have an amazing panel of judges. We've got Elizabeth N., who is the VP of Strategy and Business Development at Bioelectric Devices. She's also an MIT Club of Northern California board member, so thank you so much for all of your volunteering for the club. We've also got Lee Sun, who is a partner at Foundation Capital, so from the venture capital world. And then we've also got Will Knight, who is a senior editor at Wired. So we got a great diverse set of judges, and we're so excited to get started. And the way that the things will work are that every researcher will have 3 minutes to present. I'm going to play the time clock, and I will stop everyone at exactly 3 minutes. And then we'll move on to judges' questions after each of the research. Followed by, in the end, we will then have the judges deliberate to pick the winners. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first researcher. His name is Neil Mosamund from the MIT Media Lab. And while he's getting ready to present and getting everything set up, I figure, I have some interesting factoids that I've collected. So MIT Media Lab was actually founded in 1985. And it's really fascinating as there's so many great interdisciplinary research going on. And have lots more fun factoids here, but before I go into more of those, Neil, are you all set to present now?
I am, but I'm unable to turn my video on. I think it's disabled from the admins.
Oh, well, okay, we'll get that figured out. There we go, Neil. It's almost like he's in the Matrix, Neo from the Matrix, the background. All right, take the show, Neil.
All right. So electroencephalography, or EEG, is the practice of recording the electrical activity of the brain by placing several sensors on the skull, and it is notoriously difficult to interpret and label. So here I'm presenting an unsupervised algorithm that's able to extract useful features from EEG for all kinds of different applications. So our algorithm uses contrastive learning. Basically, we augment the input data in various ways, and we train an encoder that maximizes similarity between the augmentations of the same data and minimizes similarity between representations of different pieces of data. Once the encoder is trained, we can use it for all kinds of applications, such as classification. One key idea in our work is a channel recombination, where we use the underlying physics of EEG to basically increase the size of our data set quadratically, where we obtain new channels that are also valid and physiologically meaningful. We tested our system on 3 different classification tasks. On emotion recognition, we were able to surpass supervised models only using 10% of our labels, and we were able to achieve the state-of-the-art classification accuracy. For detecting normal versus abnormal brain waves, we were able to surpass supervised models with only 1% of the labels. And in the task for detecting sleep stages, we were able to achieve the state-of-the-art classification accuracy and also surpass supervised models only using 10% of the labeled data. We also developed a new visualization method where our model outputs 4 virtual channels. We interpret them as 3 components of color and thickness. And once we present these sequences, you can see very easily the difference between normal brain activity and abnormal brain activity. We were able to observe motifs and recurring patterns in these visualizations. And more importantly, we could see a new phenomenon where the right hemisphere of the brain is performing a sequence of activations while the left hemisphere is doing the exact same sequence in the opposite order, as if one of them is moving forward in time and the other one is moving backward in time. We were also experimented by showing these activations as a shape, which gave us this new idea of brain as a beating organ. Note that these beatings are happening 10 to 12 times per second, so it's much faster than the heart, but still provides a mechanical or visceral view of what the brain is doing. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll take questions.
Perfect. Judges, over to you.
Hi, Neil. This is Elizabeth Ng. I just had a question. Who is your target customer for these applications, and what regulatory hurdles do you need to proceed through in order to get it to market?
So there are 2 main kinds of applications. One is basically for diagnosis, where this can be used by neurologists and doctors to detect different kinds of abnormalities and different kinds of problems with the brain. And also the second major branch is brain-computer interfacing, where we are thinking about customer little EEG headsets to be used for all kinds of applications like neurofeedback, like controlling games, communication, and so on. And the main hurdle is the production of EEG headsets. So EEG headsets are very unreliable, and I think the new wave of machine learning might motivate a lot of people who will produce EEG to make better devices that are more suitable for machine learning applications.
Great, thank you.
Do we have another judge who has a question?
Please.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Neil. I'll introduce the next competitor. Her name is Rima Arnaout, and she's currently at UCSF. And while Rima is currently loading her presentation, I'll just quickly introduce the major that Rima was a part of at MIT. She was a biological engineering major, or course 20, and it was actually introduced in 2005, which is when I started at MIT. So I will pass it on now to Rima. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Let me get started here. So there we go. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Today I want to tell you, the host has asked me to start my video. Does that mean you don't see me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Do you see me? Or do you see my video?
We see your slide. Now we see your video.
Okay, great. Okay,
perfect.
All right, thanks everybody. Today I want to tell you how deep learning is helping us solve a global diagnostic challenge in ultrasound which is fetal screening for congenital heart disease. Heart defects are the most common birth defect. Sorry, let me get my thing working here. They have serious health consequences, but they're still rare, only 1% of live births. So it's really difficult for physicians to build and maintain their skills at CHD detection. We have fetal screening ultrasound. That's the 20-week ultrasound that is recommended for every pregnancy. And that should be able to detect over 90% of CHD. But because of the rarity of CHD and because of the difficulty of ultrasound imaging, the actual sensitivity and specificity in the community are less than 50%. So we designed and trained an ensemble of neural networks to detect CHD. We did some feature engineering here. So instead of using the entire fetal ultrasound as an input to our diagnostic model, which would have been thousands of images per ultrasound, we made use of clinical guidelines specifying these 5 screening views of the heart, which are supposed to be able to detect most CHD. We hypothesized that this would allow us to find diagnostic signals for a rare disease using a relatively small data set and founding our model on the important clinical work that's come before. We broke this problem down into several steps. First, we trained a convolutional neural network to distinguish those 5 cardiac views. Second, we deployed per view diagnostic classifiers to determine for each view whether that heart was normal or not. Third, we used those per view diagnoses to create a composite diagnostic score as to whether the heart overall was normal or not. In this way, our model achieved 95% sensitivity and 96% specificity in distinguishing normal hearts from CHD, and that's a significant improvement over current practice. We also set a new standard for testing in medical AI, testing on a much larger data set than the one that we trained on. We tested on over 4,500 ultrasounds from 2 medical centers. That's 4.4 million images. And furthermore, model classifications depend on the same anatomic structures that matter to clinicians. Here I show the GradCam for one view for one disease versus normal. In summary, we found that using deep learning along with clinical knowledge has markedly improved performance on a diagnostic imaging challenge that affects every person born worldwide. And we look forward to further scaling this model and putting it in the hands of providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Judges, do you have any questions?
How many images and how long did it take, to basically to build this model to achieve this accuracy? And also, what is the upper limit of the accuracy? Like, can you get to 99.9%, for example?
We have an AUC, we have an area under the curve of 0.99, so not quite 100, but pretty darn good. Our training set was 100,000 images from 1,300 ultrasounds, so much smaller than the data set we tested on.
And Rima, have you tried this in a real-world setting with clinicians or doctors to see if they have compared the use of your AI, driven diagnostics versus kind of the standard?
Yep, that's exactly the next step. So here what we've done is proven this in a retrospective population. So this was real-world fetal screening ultrasounds with a real-world prevalence of CHD. We also tested in a bunch of different data sets with high prevalence of CHD. The next step is prospective testing, and that's what we're working on now. Okay, great.
Hi, Rima. That was very interesting. Thank you. My question is, how are you? Oh, have you done anything to sort of vet the approach to make sure there's, not bias in it, or it's not biased towards sort of artifacts in particular hospital data sets? I'm thinking about this just because I've come across a few examples where that's been the case with some applied uses of AI in medical imaging.
Absolutely. So in the testing set that I mentioned, I summarized, but we actually used 2 different medical centers so that we would be robust against any differences in imaging that are, programmatic. And then we recently have a consortium, a global consortium, where we are having studies come in from about 13 different centers. So we're working on multi-center. We did a sub-study with the imaging that we had, where we looked at low quality imaging with ultrasound. Half the problem is interpreting these images, but the other half of the problem is acquiring quality images. So if you read the paper, which is more than 3 minutes, we found the low quality images. We submitted those to our diagnostic model. Those gave us a sensitivity of 95% and a specificity of 39%. So what we found is the model finds low quality images. The model can use low quality images for diagnosis, but the sacrifice there is specificity.
All right, and I saw Elizabeth, you also opened up your video. Did you have a question as well? I just wanted to double check before I move on to our next competitor.
So what is the timing for actually moving this into a regulatory pathway that will get you to approval for usage?
Yeah, we're looking for regulatory partners now. And so we anticipate that this can go in as a 510K.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, any advice would be welcome because I'm just a doctor here. So.
Great.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Rima. Next, we have our next competitor, whose name is Sam Pearlie from UCSF. And I did some background research on Sam. You can't really call it research compared to what all these researchers are doing, but, wanted to fit in somehow. But Sam, I noticed that he's been a part of the synthetic biology group and the research laboratory of electronics group and the EECS/C-Cell group, which is Computer and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. So I think he's gotten the most number of the alphabet award in my book. I'm not going to ask him to pick a favorite parent, academic parent, but I just wanted to know, I took a look at, what is synthetic biology? Because I think for a lot of us, there's biology, there is, biological engineering, etc. Well, I looked on the website and it said that the goal of synthetic biology is to make the construction of novel biological systems into a practical and useful engineering discipline. So without further ado, I introduce you to Sam Pearlie, likely with pearly white teeth. Sorry, terrible pun.
Thank you, Wendy. That was a very helpful introduction because I was trying to make sure that we can put this in the right context for people to understand. So my research revolves around stem cells, and many of us are familiar with what stem cells are, but I want to make sure we put it in the technical terms. We all indeed start from a stem cell, from a single cell. And what a stem cell can do, it can give rise to other cells, and especially when it's pluripotent, meaning when we are an embryonic cell starting from one cell, it can give rise to multiple cells in the body. So we could start from an embryonic cell and have white blood cells in our body, we could have neurons form in our body, and we could have heart cells form in our body. Now, so far, our understanding of biology has been that a human life starts from a single cell, and we have all these other cells that are made from this stem cell that form our functions in the body. What makes these cells interesting and unique is essentially what genes are present or are activated or repressed in these cells. For example, you could have white blood cells that have a particular set of genes that are active, while in neurons, a different set of genes are active. And we are talking about 10,000 genes amongst a pool of 20,000 genes. Now, that's a big combinatorial selection that happens in giving rise to the cells, the functions they have. And it turns out all of them have the same DNA. It's just that certain genes are active and certain genes are not active. Now, if you could imagine that this is a sense of a network that these cells are present in. Now, my introduction to biology happened when I was actually doing computer science at CSAIL. And in the year 2012, there was this professor, Shinya Yamanaka, who was awarded the Nobel Prize for indeed finding out that this particular wiring that the cells have is actually programmable, meaning that yes, cells can come from an embryonic state and form these different cell types, but you could also go back to the embryonic state. Just as how they arise to the specific cell types, you have a reverse reprogramming that can be made possible. Now, this got me started thinking as an engineer, as a computer scientist, to model cells as machines that can be programmed, that they have these wires and connections that we could rewire. And so I jumped into the very nascent field of synthetic biology and started programming cells myself. And to do that, I built a toolkit which is based on CRISPR-Cas technology, where we can now modify genes and rewire cells. And after having built this toolkit, I was able to show that we could use these tools to remove genes, to upregulate genes or downregulate genes. Now, the bigger idea of working on stem cells is that if we have stem cells, we could differentiate them and we could make different tissues that are needed, especially for people having strokes that lose a lot of their tissue. We could give these tissues on demand to a patient and recover their lost cells. But the problem with this approach at the moment is that—
Sam, I just have to say it's 3 minutes, so
Yes.
you can just wrap
Yes.
up. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is tissue rejection, and we can't give this to patients because we need unique cells. So my approach is to engineer these stem cells and make universal donor stem cells that could be available for all patients. And that's made possible by this toolkit that I have built. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam. Judges, to you.
I'll start with a question. Thanks, Sam. That was I can't say I understood all of that. That's just me. But I'm curious, what would you say was the sort of unique proposition of your toolkit?
Yeah.
Presumably there are a bunch out there. So what
Exactly.
do you bring to the table?
Yeah, so we are looking at 20,000 genes that make up the human body. And what I was able to do with my toolkit is to be able to edit multiple genes at the same time. So we are currently working on editing 30 to 40 genes to make our stem cells induced universal stem cells. So the idea is not just go after one gene or two genes, but do multiple at the same time.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so my question is, in terms of application, what would be the areas, that you think would be the closest, to basically be applied?
Yeah, the closest we are looking at is spinal cord injuries. There's a lot of people that have injuries in the spinal cord, and it's one area where we could immediately give these cells. We also have clinical trials that are happening in retinopathy, and we are able to make retina on demand, but being able to do that for a wide set of populations. So these would be immediate applications.
Got it.
So kind of following on Lee's question, those are your immediate applications. Are there any near-term customers that you may have identified that want to try out these your universal donor stem cell?
Yes, we have a we have a patient base that are willing to try. In Japan, actually, we've set up an interest group for different patients. We've actually tried it with one patient where we have done patient-specific line, and now we are expanding that to universal base in Japan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sam. And maybe I should just ask, out of all those, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite, but I'm really curious. And that's a topic for another time. Next, I'd like to introduce our next competitor, whose name is Utkarsh Saragi from the MIT Media Lab. And while Utkarsh is setting up, I will just share another interesting tidbit about the Media Lab. And so it's really interesting because it's unconstrained by traditional disciplines. And so there are designers, engineers, artists, scientists, they're all trying to create technology and experiences together that enable people to understand and transform their lives, communities, and environments. So without further ado, I see that Utkarsh, you got your presentation up, so I will let you run with it. Take it away.
Sure, thank you. In this current age of information and augmentation, we are inevitably surrounded by AI. More often than not, you are likely to hear about the race of accuracies. Oh, hey, I achieved 98.5% accuracy on XYZ dataset. I'm the new state of the art. Well, perhaps, yeah. But let me ask you a simple yet important question. Shouldn't what matter more at the end of the day is how well that algorithm is going to perform when deployed in real-world settings, right? What intrigues me more is how robust are these black box neural networks going to stand the inexorable shifts in real-world noisy data post-deployment, more so in safety-critical applications ranging from healthcare to self-driving cars. This calls for reliable, fair, and aware models. So that's what my research is about. Understanding what a model does not know is very critical to using machine learning systems and mitigating possible biases and risks in decision-making. After all, it's all a game of decision-making, and we don't want to step in with an overconfident and biased pawn. Let's consider a simple machine learning system, Decision Maker 1 on the slide, for diagnosis of COVID-19, and say it takes chest x-rays, blood test statistics, and some other demographic information shown as blobs of data on the slide. The current research shares methods which can help quantify how uncertain the model is of its decision, given all the data bunched together, that is estimating a unified uncertainty. What we are working on is a novel recipe that would allow separate these tight error sources and provide separate uncertainty estimates respectively. Now, why is that important? Because instead of the decision maker 2 on the slide just being like, hey, there's XYZ uncertainty given all your data you might want to account for in data collection and final decision making, the decision maker 3 can be like, hey, there's X uncertainty related to X-rays, Y uncertainty related to the blood test, and Z uncertainty related to demographics. And so now the doctor can account for these separate error sources and say upweight the less uncertain sources while making the decision. This encourages human-assisted AI and nurtures a synergy between the two. We also use this recipe to highlight bias in a machine learning system applied to stratify the risk of Alzheimer's dementia. Our recipe produced models that highlighted a steep gender bias. While the accuracies were similar, the system exhibited skyrocketing uncertainties with decisions on male populations compared to those on female populations, showing that merely the accuracies can be misleading. Now, I can go on forever enlisting use cases, but as you would have gotten the taste of our recipe by now, I leave you with a thought. The next time you are a part of any decision-making system, whether as a machine learning researcher or a human expert or even a user, you might want to ask the following questions, like, how likely is my algorithm to fail in real-world settings? Have I accounted for the sources of errors? How much should I actually trust the system? So that's all for today. Thank you for your attention and stay safe.
Wow, you literally ended right on time. Love it. Judges, over to you. Lee, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, it seems like this this model that you developed is super valuable. I wonder, like, let's say if you were to apply it in self-driving cars, and then, what would it take, to get from, this model and then to actually a reliable decision-making model, like algorithm?
It's actually a very good question, and it was originally a part of my talk, but then I had to cut it down to fit into 3 minutes. So that's good. So let's consider the classic trolley problem, which we all are aware of. So say there's a car going on a road with 2 lanes, and one lane has like 1 person, and the other lane has 3 people, right? Mm-hmm. And just not caring about how connected you are to those people, the car would want to make a decision that, oh, hey, I'd rather go hit 1 person than 3 people. if you are just basing your decision on accuracies. But now, say if you want to loop in uncertainties, it can be like, what if like it's very, very super certain about hitting one person and super uncertain about hitting 3 people. So it might want to reconsider the decision and rather go down the path of hitting 3 people because it's just super uncertain.
Got it.
Yep.
Hey, Akash, it seems very important. As Lee says, obviously it's a big deal, but there are a number of sort of open source approaches to sort of debiasing or addressing bias. I'm curious. So then there's a lot of activity going on. I'm curious how you envisage making money from it, how you would commercialize it.
So as I mentioned, this is something that anyone, even remotely connected or not connected to AI, can use it. A machine learning researcher, when he's going ahead and developing a machine learning tool, we have actually developed a wrapper on this, and this wrapper can be used on any of the model out there. And it just takes in the model, it just splits the model. I don't want to get into the technical intricacies. It applies some probability distribution and eventually says, oh, hey, okay, these are the particular sets of data, and these are the particular uncertainty estimates, which are helpful to the machine learning researcher as well as the user and any human expert, like the example of doctor I just mentioned. To actually extend on that, we did a super good use case, which is we approached a human expert in winemaking, and we had a data set that considered some 11 to 12 features, like different chemical properties and stuff for the winemaking. And we were like, oh, hey, these are the 12 features. Now, can you cluster these features in a way that you would want, like, okay, these features are this uncertainty, these features are this uncertainty, and these features are this uncertainty, rather than having one unified uncertainty for all the features which the current methods suggest. And they gave us the clusters, and eventually we just rolled out uncertainty estimates for each of those, and they were pretty happy. So mission accomplished, I would say.
So my question is, this decision-making system, it's how related or unrelated is it to classical decision tree analysis, where you take into account the uncertainties around various factors, as one of my old mentors said, the possibilities, the probabilities of the possibilities, and how does this differ from other decision-making algorithms and decision tree analysis methodologies that are already out there?
Right, that's a very good question. So first off, something I want to mention here is these decision-making systems I'm talking about, I'm mostly focusing on the black box neural networks, because what happens is we just, like if you go to a doctor and if you roll out a model, the doctor is like, oh, hey, okay, this is what I have, but I don't know how to trust the model because I don't know what's going inside. And hence, like if you can have like uncertainty estimates for each of these, the doctor can actually see through it and have further insights about making the decision. But coming more towards your question, it's kind of like if you have a decision tree, which again, there is one side note that decision trees in the current state of the art aren't the best machine learning algorithm to solve everything, and just the black box neural networks happen to solve everything, and there's something made around black box neural networks. But anyway, I feel like the decision trees kind of take like one feature at a time, and using this, we can cluster the features as we want. Like for example, as I mentioned in the previous question, we went to a human expert and we were like, okay, what are like, you have all the freedom to choose whatever features you want to cluster together, and we'll provide you the uncertainties for that. Similarly, what we did is we used just like statistical hierarchical clustering to cluster features, and then we rolled out uncertainties for those. And then what we also did is we did feature as a cluster. So basically, we had uncertainty per feature inside the cluster, and basically saying like, yeah, we can attend to customer and user needs as they want, rather than the machine learning system governing what they want to give. So we are giving like more flexibility on the user end, and so that we can design our systems how they want rather than enforcing what we want to give them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Utkarsh. Next, I'd like to introduce our next competitor, whose name is Yu She from MIT CSAIL, which, by the way, MIT CSAIL stands for the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. And here's an interesting tidbit. It was founded when two of the labs merged. It was the Laboratory of Computer Science and then also the Artificial Intelligence Lab. And the LCS, the Laboratory for Computer Science, was actually founded in 1963. And you know how we've been hearing AI exponentially more so these days? Well, you know, the AI lab was actually founded as an AI project back in 1959. So that means if it were a person that was born then, it would be 61 years old, almost nearing typical retirement age. So, you know, AI has been around for decades and decades. So just wanted to throw that interesting tidbit out there. And depends on how you actually define AI. It might go back to, I don't know, ever since we were able to think. So without further ado, I'd like to turn to our next competitor. You take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, great. I will go ahead. I'm Yu. Today I'm going to talk about robot cable manipulation. Cables are widely used in daily life, healthcare system, automobile industry. Here we show example. In daily life, we follow this cable, find this plug, and insert it to the cell phone. It is very easy for human, but it is very challenging for robotic systems. And existing solutions because cable manipulation is very challenging because cable is very flexible and it can deform in any shape. Existing solution for robot cable manipulation, they either require mechanical constraints or support, or they perform very slowly with incremental motion. The goal of this project is to develop a robotic system that can manipulate cable in free space in real time, which means we do not need any mechanical support. We can run the cable manipulation on the fly. That's the goal of this project. To achieve this goal, we developed a robotic gripper system with a very unique tactile sensors, because this tactile sensor can provide very rich information. Here we show example on the right. The gripper grasping the cable, and it can estimate the pulse information of the cable and the force applied to this cable, which is very unique. And the next step, we will apply this information to develop controllers to make robot cable manipulation in real time. Here is how the controller works. We first develop one controller to make sure this cable will be remained in the center of this gripper. And the second controller is to make sure the gripper can smoothly sliding along this cable, but still we can have good tactile information. So this is the first implementation of robot cable manipulation in free space in real time. And we plan to apply this technique in more advanced cable manipulation applications in like industry cable manufacturing, assembling, or healthcare surgery system to help like sewing stitches. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you. I'm taking.
Thank you so much, judges. Oh, go ahead. There you go.
Yeah, this is something I know how difficult this is, and that it's seems really interesting and really very cool. But have you looked at all at the commercial? Have you looked at particular commercial applications, how it might be used, and what are the limits when it comes to sort of operating, you know, deformable things? There must be some. It seems like it's only with this particular, like the use of a cable, right?
Yes.
Is it generalized to could it generalize to fabrics or something?
Yeah, actually, that's the next step. Exactly. So I think you mentioned a very good point, because most robotic manipulation objects are rigid parts that are very easy to manipulate. Here, if we consider this kind of deformable objects, it's very complex. Here, we consider this linear deformable objects, which is cables, and it shares the same feature for like a two-dimensional deformable objects, like you mentioned, the fabrics, the clothes. Yeah, it will be share the same technique we need to sliding along these soft objects smoothly. We can get this information for feedback. There will be one challenge for manipulating fabrics. For example, we may need to planning. We need to develop planning algorithms how to manipulate like fabrics. Yeah, that's our next step. Thank you for pointing out. Yeah, thank you.
So if you put this into an application, are you thinking of, maybe applying this, to, let's say, a robotic arm, and then being able to pick up like, like different type of objects? Like, yeah. What application scenarios are there, especially high value? Yeah.
Yeah. So you mean what's a possible application scenarios would be possible?
Like, yeah, like the high value applications that you would think that you can think of. For example, if you develop this into a product, where would be the first, product you would develop with this technology?
I see. Yeah, we first think about like a car assembly, automobile industry, because if you take a look about the front door of the car, or the front of the car, you will see there are a lot of like wires, cables passing through different holes, and they are assembled together. All this kind of task has to do by people at this time. Robots cannot do this kind of task. So we expect next step, we will still continue working on this cable manipulation, and we consider apply also apply to the automobile industry. I think it will be good application for cable assembly or cable manufacturing in the automobile system. Yeah. Thank you.
So how right now you have it set up with a stable target. What about a moving target, or is that something that's in the future? So if your target moves, right now everything's kind of fixed.
You mean the goal of this project for the next step?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we will do like one step by step. So here we demonstrated this application. We demonstrated we can do this task. But like I mentioned, if we are consider a more complex scenario, say the front door, the car of the front door, there will be other constraints and other challenges. So we needed to work on developing different primitives to figure out that problem. That will be the immediately next step. And after that, we will combine the vision feedback together to to manipulate the more complex 2D or 3D deformable objects like the fabrics or tomatoes, the fruits. Yeah, so that more that will be a little bit more further goal. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yu. I don't know if you can see, but everything's so interesting that my corgi has decided to come and also listen in. So last but not least, we have Praneeth Vepakomma from the MIT Media Lab. Woo!
Hello, everyone. Fantastic event so far. It's been very interesting. Okay, so yeah, I'm Praneeth Vepakomma. I'm a PhD student at MIT Media Lab, and my work broadly focuses on privacy-preserving algorithms, computation, and machine learning. So imagine a world where there is a benevolent AI that can extract intelligence from data sets that are highly private and hosted by distributed entities, while at the same time making sure the privacy concerns are taken into complete consideration. Right now, we see data everywhere, but the problem is most of this data is siloed and protected by privacy and regulation. So as part of this work, we have developed a lot of privacy-preserving algorithms. We have also explored the competitive landscape of how the business is within this area. We've done some landscape analysis of the algorithms itself and to understand what the trade-offs are. We also had some multiple adopters that have done some global adoption of our technology and some very nice example use cases. So quickly going through a few use cases, we started a nonprofit called PathCheck, for doing COVID-19 contact tracing and privacy-preserving analytics. Anything that is done in here is privacy-preserving as part of the platform. We've released a very popular app called COVID Safe Paths that can be used on any kind of smartphone, both Apple and Google-based. So at the same time, we've also developed APIs for data sets and data modalities that are highly different and widely seen in today's world. So this includes data from telecom, GPS data, Bluetooth data, being able to do some sort of exposure notification based on some co-location with Wi-Fi data, health data, images, numeric data, text, and so on and so forth. In terms of our solutions, anything you see in here has papers published in it, at the least preprints, and also most of these have multiple patents filed to protect the IP. So we've done work on split learning, and if you see the algorithmic landscape, the biggest question here is, how can we ensure high privacy of the data set, which is the x-axis, while making sure the utility of the data set is also squeezed to the max? Currently, the most secure solutions, which is like homomorphic encryption and MPC, are cryptographic. They're extremely secure, but they're not computationally scalable beyond basic computations or summary statistics. It's not possible in today's world to do a training of a very large deep network with homomorphic encryption. So that's where our solution comes in, along with Google's solution, which is federated learning. Our solution is an improvement over federated learning, which we call split learning. This provides extremely high security while also making sure you can train very large neural networks while also ensuring that the communication efficiency across the distributed data holding parties is extremely high, while the compute efficiency is also extremely high on these parties, to an extent that this could be deployed with clients that are edge devices. So we've also implemented this under several settings, and we've done some parallel work as part of our algorithmic toolkit for private computation that includes private GPS intersection, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth co-location, private matching of data sets or records. And we've developed something very recently we're excited about called splintering, which is a non-cryptographic alternative to do public and private shares of your data, similar to what is done in cryptography. So here you see raw data set. These are how the public shares would look like. And we show it's extremely hard for the malicious actor to be able to reconstruct without knowing the private keys from a statistical standpoint. We had multiple. Yes. Yeah. So to conclude, we had multiple adopters. We are doing a global medical trial, for an example use case, for example, for X-ray-based split learning, there's a very large market, 75 million annually. Even if you charge a $0.5 for net income per X-ray record, we could see a 10x ROI based on the cost that would be involved in putting this together. And these are the several companies that exist, but not many use split learning yet.
All right, judges, over to you.
Hi, I'll kick off with, so can you say a bit more about the medical trial you're doing? Is that the chest one?
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah, so there's two paths. So on the medical trial, we've found a very impressive channel called Path Presenter, which is the largest repository and radiological training company, especially focusing on pathological data. This is the largest in the world for this kind of data sets. So they already have clients onboarded all across the world. And the ones that we've chosen are the Tata Center in India, Nagasaki Hospital from Japan, a hospital in Sydney, and Mount Sinai at New York, along with our lab, of course, which is providing the technology. So basically, the good part of this channel that we're working with is all these clients are completely HIPAA compliant. They're already onboarded. They've done all the regulatory activities. So there's no other, like thorns in the way to be able to do a trial of this sort. So that is that. This is something that is starting. And then we've also basically ported our technology, some parts of our technology into widely used platforms for private AI like PySift, which is open source, and OpenMind is very popular in this space. But there's also parts of our technology that is, patent protected for commercial purposes, so that there's good adoption along with business use cases.
So just It's very timely. And my question is, have you thought about applications to the current coronavirus pandemic in terms of doing some contact tracing, data analysis of various, health diagnostics, et cetera?
Absolutely. So the PathCheck platform and the SafePaths app is running. It's completely private and it's primarily for contact tracing. So yeah, and also just to give an idea of the scale of this effort, there are thousands of people in our Slack channels working all over the world, contributing to this project. And that's the reason we put it as a nonprofit. And we are also doing intersection for different modalities for contact tracing, because what Google and Apple did for this problem is based on Bluetooth primarily, and also CSAIL has done in MIT something called a PACT protocol. But Bluetooth is great, but this is not a modality that covers everything. Like you cannot expect an infected and a courier patient, a courier individual to always have their Bluetooth on. So then we moved to Wi-Fi co-location, which is reasonable, especially for public Wi-Fi hotspots, like a Wi-Fi in Starbucks that's public in Times Square or something like that. But still, it's not all encompassing. So those are these two papers, they're out, and we have this code is out as well in our GitHub if you search for PathCheck. And then we moved to something very critical, which is GPS. This is like the channel that will have the widest adoption. So we've also implemented private GPS intersection using cryptographic primitives and private set intersection that's also cryptographic. That is highly scalable. And this is also already operating in the SafePaths app. You can literally go to the Apple Play or like the Google Store and literally download the app that uses this. Now we are moving further, which is to use the other things in our toolkit of research, which is split learning, which is to do more like diagnostics. Imagine COVID-19 x-rays. There's like millions of patients, like 75 million over patients, but there's only like 14,000 records of x-rays for doing AI-based diagnostics for COVID-19. So it seems that data size seems like a joke at this point. So this has not happened. So imagine a solution like split learning where you can squeeze the utility out of this data set without losing the x-rays from global ecosystems that hold these large data records for COVID-19 patients. So we're moving to those kind of other modalities that like numeric text and images.
Great, thank you.
Very cool.
All right, very cool indeed. Wow, what a great way to start off the weekend. And this is not just the most exciting research and the most cutting edge research. So thank you all to our competitors. I know now the judges and I will go into a separate room to deliberate, and some of our key organizers will have an announcement for you. So we'll now duck away for a little bit. But stay tuned because we're going to announce the winner soon.
All right, so while the judges are out in deliberating and deciding from these super exciting sort of research projects and see who the winner is, we want to just share with you a few thoughts. So first I wanted to express our thanks and gratitude to the MIT Club of Northern California, the MIT Alumni Association, the staff, the faculty, and tons of people who've helped us over the course of the last 8 months as this conference was put together. There are several MIT Club of Northern California board members who have very actively participated in over the course of the last 4 days. People like Nelson, who's the chairman of the board, he's actually going to be presenting the award shortly. Bridget, who sort of moderated the session yesterday. Mike Cassidy, Maisha, who's moderated a session earlier. Shishir's moderated a session earlier. Sam O'Keefe, who's a judge for the AI Idol. Jake, who's a judge for an AI Idol. Elizabeth Ng, who's currently judging, and Rohini Chakravarti and Arun Sehgal, and the list goes on. So really, really thankful for their support for the conference and helping the volunteers along the way. I'd also like to thank the MIT Alumni Association, in particular, Wendy Espik, the CEO of the MIT Alumni Association, Frank Kromowski, who's been a brother, who's been sort of a huge supporter over the course of the last 2 years, helping shape this organization and the conference in particular. Joe McNaughton, who helped organize this particular event for us, the Research Slam. And then lastly, the various MIT clubs around the globe, in particular, the MIT Club of Boston, the MIT Club of New York, the MIT Club of Southern California, the MIT Club of DC, AMITA, which is the Alumni Club of MIT, BAMIT, the Black Alumni Association of MIT, the MIT Club of Shanghai, and so on and so forth, for opening up, allowing us to open up our programming to their members and bringing in sort of audiences as well as speakers from their communities. I founded this conference 4 years ago. It took me 5 years to convince the board to take the risk on launching this conference. And in particular, I'm eternally grateful to Bridget Brett, who was the president at that time in 2017, who when she heard the vision, she said, there you go, here's the seed capital, go, let's do it. And it's amazing how far this conference has come along over the course of the last 4 years. And so Bridget, thank you so much for providing us with the seed capital and taking that bet early on. And about 2 years ago, when I was, I'd run it for 2 years, I was looking for the next volunteer to take it over. And I met Teddy. And I remember my first conversation with Teddy. And Teddy was like, so how many attendees did you have last year? I was like, about 1,000. It's like, well, I think we can do more. I think we should do at least 3,000. That's my goal for next year. So he's a man after my own heart. Teddy took his passion combined with his talent and his skill. And today, and I just don't have the full numbers yet, but as of right now, for this conference, we've had a little over 13,000 views and over 3,000 hours of viewership. So where he wanted to take it 3x, he delivered 10x, over 10x in terms of the audience. So amazing work. And it's been a pleasure working with Teddy over the course of the last 2 years and really taking this conference to the next height. So thank you so much, Teddy. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Shuja, and thank you so much to all the people and organizations that have helped to make this event possible. I also wanted to continue the thanks and mention some of our other partners and supporters. We have some corporate sponsors, including Cisco, FutureWay, Amada AI Innovation Lab, McKinsey Fuel, NVIDIA, Zoom URL, and of course our partners at IBEX, including Tahir and his team, Maria, Noman, Uruba, Adil, Faraz, Masood, Maham, Anika. They helped to build the platform that we're using to view this conference. So very appreciative of them for all the hard work they've done there. Not to mention a lot of the social media and a bunch of other behind the scenes work that have made this experience easy to use and beautiful. Also our friends and partners at Cred PR who have supported us in making these conferences successful over the past 3 years, including Renee, Taylor, and Caitlin. Thank you all so much for helping to make these very professional, great experiences and making this as pleasurable an experience for the organizers as possible. Last but not least, the other members of the conference planning team. So Shuja, thank you for your leadership. Serena, you're the backbone of the club. Thank you for helping to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Kevin too, Andrew Morena, and many others. Thank you all so much for taking so much time and putting so much heart and energy into planning the conference. The next thing I just wanted to mention one more time, if you've enjoyed the conference and you're so inclined, would love for us to be able to reach our goal for the COVID-19 relief funds through MIT. So I'm sharing my screen right now. If you go to the mitcnc.org website and you click on COVID-19 at the top, you'll be able to, I think if you click the We Can Do It banner, you'll get to a link where you can donate. We are at 34,000 and change, and we're trying to get to $50,000. As I've mentioned in some of the morning announcements, this goes to MIT research and emergency funds to combat COVID-19. So definitely consider donating to those funds so that we can help combat COVID. I also want to make another mention of the MIT alumni startup initiatives. I've shared in our lobby 2 Airtable links, which you can fill out as a founder or as someone who wants to be involved as an ally. These are some new initiatives I'll be kicking off in the coming weeks and months to help build and support the startup community of MIT founders and allies. And with that, I think we're getting close to our judges coming back, but I'll just also make 2 other quick mentions. We will be hosting one more VIP happy hour next Thursday. Look out for an email on that. One of the great things about a virtual conference is that we don't need to limit it to the dates of the conference. So hopefully people will have a chance to tune in for that next week. The other piece is we will be sending a survey. Want to hear from our audience on how your experience has been across various dimensions. So keep an eye out for that survey as well. And we would really appreciate your feedback. And with that, I think we're going to bring our judges back and present our winners. I may have spoken too soon. Not sure if the judges are wrapped up yet, but I'm sure they're putting a lot of thought and care into the deliberations. I guess the last thing I'll say, just thank you to everyone who's tuned in right now and has tuned in over the past several days. You know, the conference wouldn't be a conference without all our attendees, all the amazing MIT and MIT friends that are in attendance. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your lives and even on a Saturday, if you're tuned in right now, tuning in. Hopefully this content and our speakers have been engaging and you've gotten some education and inspiration and even some new connections over the past few days.
It must be a really tough decision for the judges. It's taking so long, but I think you already mentioned that, but also all our recordings are on our website. So if, in case you missed our session or you want to replay any of the sessions, they're all available on a near real-time basis. So you can just go in and check out the videos as well.
I've received confirmation the judges are indeed still deliberating, but they should be rejoining us shortly. There they are.
Give me their full names.
Oh, Nelson, I think we're live.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So it was really tough. You know, everyone had such good presentations. So I will let Nielsen announce our winners. That was, you know, really hard to come up with because everyone is a winner.
Yes, and that's actually why it took so long. So apologies. Want to congratulate our 3 winners in reverse order: Sam, you, and Rima. Congratulations very much. It was a very, obviously very difficult to decide on the 3. Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone. This was really fun.
Yeah, congrats everyone. You know, it's a really tough decision. You know, like I feel like you all, you know, deserve how to say honor, you know, for doing this.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Elizabeth.
Sorry, well, I was going to say it was really tough, and we spent until the last second trying to decide because all innovations seem really fascinating, and I'd love to hear more about all of them actually.
Yeah, I just want to third what they both said, and Leonard, it was very, very difficult, and there's some really, really cool things there that I'm sure could well surprise us and be the big breakout hit. So congratulations to everyone.
I wanted to just mention, so congratulations to our winners. Wendy mentioned this earlier on. in recognition of your work and your victory, we'll be making, or the MIT Alumni Association will be making donations on your behalf to the COVID response funds. So thank you all for the great work that you're doing, and know that your efforts will go to support this great cause. All right, with that, thank you to all of our contestants, all of our wonderful judges, our wonderful MC, Wendy. Thank you, Nelson, chairman of our MIT CNC board. Thank you, Elizabeth, Will, Lee, for being our wonderful judges. And thank you to all our wonderful contestants. It's very inspiring to see the great work that you're doing and the new ideas that you're bringing to the world and putting into practice to really make the world a better place. And with that, I think that's the end of the conference. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and feel free to rewatch any of the videos that you've watched or watch ones that you missed. Everything will be online. So thank you again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Teddy, for organizing, and thank you for MIT CNC.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.